this video, we will be doing constructions involving triangles and points of concurrency. Before we begin those more advanced constructions, though, we'll have a little review of 3 constructions that will come up again and again while we do the points of concurrency. The first is that of bisecting a segment. So I've drawn a segment, and in order to draw the segment bisector, I will first go to one endpoint of the segment, and I'll open my compass until it's open beyond the halfway mark to the other endpoint. And I'll make an arc at the top or above the segment and an arc below the segment. With the same compass opening, I'll go to the other endpoint and repeat that procedure. I could have drawn an entire connected arc and made something that would look like a fish, but for this I am just drawing these smaller marks that still guide the perpendicular bisector. When I join the points that are made by intersections of arcs with one another, I've done 2 things. I've bisected segment AB, and I've formed a right angle. Since the triangle constructions we're going to see in a moment become quite complicated in terms of how many marks end up on the sketches, it helps to just make these more modest marks when bisecting segments or angles, as we're going to do in a moment. The second review construction is that of drawing a perpendicular through a line and through a point not on the line. So I'll draw the point P and a line does not contain P. Now if I want to draw a perpendicular to this line, I'll name it line L, through point P, I'm going to open my compass on point P such that it is open beyond line L. And then I'll make an arc that touches line L in 2 places. Now I have 2 new points of reference, and from this point it looks a lot like the segment bisector construction that we just did. So I'll put an end point of the point of the compass on one end point and make an arc below and an arc above the line, and I'll do the same thing starting on the other end point. When I connect the intersections, I've created a perpendicular line through P such that I've made a right angle with my new line and the original line L. You might note as well that I really only needed to draw 1 pair of these crossing arcs, because through any 2 points there's only 1 line, so I would have had enough to guide me even if I only drew that crossing of arcs once. And the third of the review constructions is that of an angle bisector. So I'll draw an angle, and there's my angle. And then I will bisect that angle. Remember that that involves first marking off a distance from the vertex of the angle and marking that distance on each side of the angle. This again could have been a complete marking, an arc that connects both sides of the angle. And then I'm going to go to each of those angle sides and open my compass and make an arc from each of these marked points with the same compass opening. And now I have a point through which I know the angle bisector needs to go. I could have drawn those crossing arcs inside the angle, or I could draw them outside the angle behind the vertex. And now I'm going to draw the angle bisector.